Okay. Hello and welcome to our second cover to cover of, let me shrink that, of the 23-24 school year. I'm Shannon Eves, Family Liaison. I'm here with Carrie, Anna, and Jamie from our Family Liaison team. This meeting is now being recorded for future views, so we do ask you to please be mindful of your mic as well and mute when others are talking, just so that we can hear everybody's discussion. So today we are discussing a literary education, adapting Charlotte Mason for the modern secular homeschooler by Emily Cook, the creator of Build Your Library curriculum. I wanted to first go over just a little bit of what Emily went over about the Charlotte Mason method before we jump into discussion. So for those of you who haven't been able to read the book just yet. So Charlotte Mason was a British educator and a reformer in England who went to teach governesses her method of teaching and is now known as the Charlotte Mason method. This method uses living books rather than textbooks. They use copywork and dictation for language arts like handwriting, narration for reading, where was I? Sorry. Nature study and science, for science and more. They use short and varied lessons to discourage dawdling and encourage your child to give their best effort. And lastly, handicrafts and life skills that are handy for when they become adults. For the rest of this book, Emily goes on to discuss how to use these older lessons in a more modern method. Sorry. So before we move on to the open discussion, I do have a few questions that we can discuss and go over, and you're free to unmute your microphone and answer. So how are you incorporating literature into your homeschool now, currently? And will you be making any changes based on this book? I know I can start, I can answer this question, and then if you want to unmute and answer it as well, please feel free to do so. So for us, we were kind of already using a lot of literature in our homeschool, but I know we are going to start using a lot more. I love the idea of using more literature than textbooks for a lot of the curriculums, like for language arts and for once you get past reading or learning how to read. And then for history and science, we like to always use a lot of reading and a lot of picture books and novels for those. I am going to start using them a lot more now and space them out, because before I was doing them all at once. Now I'm going to space it out throughout the day so that we can focus on those things. Does anybody else want to talk or answer?
I like reading novels regarding history or science, because as a child, I remember, reading a textbook chapter. It was incredibly boring and hard to relate it to something. So I think personally, if my kids were little, which they're not, that would have been a great alternative than just trying to study textbooks or watching videos. To hear a story about, Nikola Tesla or George Washington, it's a great way to go more in depth.
It makes it come more alive.
Yes.
I have a few more people coming in, so I'm going to just wait on this question a little bit longer before we move on. Did you want to say something, Anna?
Yes, I was waiting. So my kids are older now, but as I was reading the book again, it was just for me it was a little bit of an affirmation, like, okay, I did some things right. Because every kid is different and every homeschool journey is different. Um, but we did a lot of kind of what she was talking about. And I didn't know these things when I was homeschooling my kiddos, but it was for me validating. I'm like, okay, we did this. We did read out loud, and we did like a more of a circle time at night. And so they didn't realize that they were doing their literature subject at night because we were reading before we went to bed. And so each of us would get a paragraph. So I'd buy 4 of the same book so that each of us could have it, and I would let them write whatever they wanted or draw. So I'm like, okay, that worked out. But because they each had their own book, there was this ownership of like, this one's mine and I can do what what I want to do to help me better understand. So that was really helpful. And again, like, we read literature at night before bed. So it was kind of like a bedtime book, but little did they know they were actually doing their language homework at that time. So that is how we were able to incorporate it and it not feel so like, oh, it's language now and I have 30 minutes to do it and hurry up and get it done. It didn't feel rushed. It just felt like it was a normal part of our day. I honestly, looking back, I wish I would have been more consistent on it. And so if I could reiterate that to anyone, and I have a girlfriend who has a 3rd grader, and I'm like, be consistent and keep reading and make this so normal that it's just what we do every night. And so I try to impart that wisdom on her. And I also shared the book with her so she could read it herself. And she found that part really important as well.
Love that. I can't wait till my little ones are reading on their own. For my oldest, I have her read to the kids sometimes, the little ones, like, so that she can get that practice in and they can listen to somebody else read. But I can't wait till like we can actually have like, this is reading time. Everybody sit down for 30 minutes and read. But I love that nighttime reading. We used to do that. But
Only to Tandem Center. Did you
Luz, did you want to share? Does anybody else want to chime in before I go to the next question?
I can say something.
Yeah.
We've been using a lot of audiobooks, especially with I have younger kids, elementary age, and we'll do audiobooks like when we're driving to some of our different enrichment opportunities, since sometimes we have a little bit of a commute, but we've listened to like Little House in the Big Woods, we've done Charlotte's Web, and that's been really helpful because I feel like we're multitasking and kind of getting it all in, and it keeps the kids captivated in the car, which has been good.
I love that. Audiobooks are our favorite. That's just we actually listen to our novel on audio every morning. It gives me time to like clean up breakfast because I'll read to them picture books and other things while they're eating so that they're quiet and listening. And then audiobooks, they're just so great. I love that there's so many more options now with audio. I wish more books were on audio.
This one friend of mine many years ago, her daughter was having a hard time reading, so she would give her, but she was an actress, so she would record her lines for her and she could follow along, or same principle with a book, get an audiobook and the printed copy so that she could follow along and hear the sounds and see them, and that helped her to master reading skills.
I'm gonna have to write that down for my theater kid. Maybe
That
I
is
can
a
read
really
her line.
powerful tool. Anytime you can pair the audio along with that printed text, that is a science-backed learn to read method. So I would always encourage that whenever you can.
And we have that great resource that we can use, Learning Alley, which is like an app and it can be used on the web where it will read the book and highlight the sentences in it while it's reading it to you. My daughter uses that every night.
Yeah, and HSTs can help you to get access to Learning Ally. So if you don't have that, talk to your teacher and see how they can get your students set up for that. Because that'll have tons and tons of books on audio that you won't have to pay for. Like you don't need to buy the Audible version.
And a lot of times they have some that aren't available on audio anywhere else. So it's really great. And I do warn, it is volunteers that are reading it. So sometimes mid-book it'll change people reading, but it's still amazing. Like my daughter has no phase. It hasn't phased her at all that when it changes. All right. I'm gonna go to the next question. So do you see yourself implementing any of these ideas that Emily discussed into your homeschool? You can unmute. You can type in the chat if you want not to talk. That's fine. I know. Go ahead. Hi, Shelley.
Hi. One thing I wanted to share, reading this actually as a homeschool teacher, was learning about copy work and how important that is and all the things that it teaches. Because I have had families do that before and I would just think, oh, okay, you know, not realizing like just all the benefits of it. So as an HST, this was also a very helpful book for me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Plus, copy work I think is gratifying to kids to see and they're copying down a story and then to see all the work because it looks like a lot when they're writing it out. So it gives them a sense of accomplishment.
I know that is one thing that we are going to start implementing in our house is copy work from this book. The other one for our house is the shorter lesson times. Because I feel like sometimes our lesson times get out of hand and they go for a really long time. Like today, our math lesson was way too long. My kids were tuning out. So definitely implementing shorter lesson times for us. Does anybody else want to share? Let me scroll through this book.
I'll share something.
Yeah. Hi, Mindy.
This is Mindy. Hi. I really enjoyed this book. I think it just breathes new life into homeschools that, you know, sometimes we feel like overwhelmed or just wondering if we're getting to all of the subjects that we need to teach. And really, it's just beautiful to sit down with a book and discuss it with your kid. And I really liked how she gave a lot of just suggestions on how to incorporate all the different subject areas in literature. Like you can find books on history, math, geography, all of the grammar, all of these topics you can discuss within literature. And so it's just, I think it's a beautiful way to homeschool. I love when our family homeschool looks like this. And I was just inspired by the book to do more read alouds.
Yeah, I love the math, reading literature math. I was like, oh my goodness, yes. I need to look into that one a lot more, finding more books on that. So it's more interesting than just doing their worksheets. I know I highlighted a lot of things to implement, like when she discussing the book afterwards. I went with my highlighter and was like marking every little thing that she suggests because it was just a lot of a breath of fresh air for me. I'm trying to find the ones that I marked.
We should create a list of books that fall into that category of literature, math in literature, science in literature.
Yeah, yes. I do love the list of books that she has at the back of this book. for the read alouds. And she's labeled them science and math or poetry or geography or history. That's super helpful. Oh yes, I found the math section. Math for Sparty Pants and I Hate Mathematics. Those are two books that I am definitely getting, especially the I Hate Mathematics book for my middle kid. Oh, right here, where she talks about like going over literature with your kids, like talking to them. Like what's a protagonist and an antagonist? What might be different if the story were set elsewhere? How do we relate to the character? What would you do in their shoes? What's the conflict and how do you think it would be resolved? I loved those. And I underlined them. I thought I highlighted them. So I can go over them after we're done with our current book. Does anybody else want to share before I move on to the next question, before we open up for discussion, like open discussion? Okay. So if you
know,
got
just one thing.
oh, go ahead.
Quick, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, we're in the midst of pickup here from school, but so I loved the ideas about keeping them like, so I homeschooled my oldest for the last 2 years of high school. So I did a lot of classes outside of the home, but something that I thought was really cool would be kind of taking on some of those classes using the AG guides and not having to be out and doing the classes at the learning center, like the history, the English, just all of that, and keeping it very literature rich. And I just loved that because I'm thinking towards homeschooling my third son for high school. So that's kind of how I'm reading these books, is getting tools in my toolbox as I'm planning towards that. So that was really exciting to me to think about doing more of it myself rather than having him go out to classes as much. So that was really neat.
Oh, that's awesome. She actually, the Build Your Library curriculum that she does goes all the way to high school, from I think it's preschool all the way up to high school level.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I was looking at that the other day for my oldest as well, trying to look at her world history, but she splits it into 2 years, so I'm not sure how I'm going to do that. Okay, so if you got a chance to ask the author of this book one question, what would that be? And something that's interesting about this author is, as you're reading it, she does talk about, I think it's her 8-year-old daughter, her youngest. She is now in 9th grade. So that's how long it's been since she wrote the book. So she has now graduated all of her older kids.
I thought something that stood out to me was her comment in the lesson that she learned as a homeschooling parent was when she felt worried that one of her twins wasn't reading, and how she pushed harder and pushed harder because the other child was more quick to pick up on things. And she was so worried because she thought she'd ruined everything for him, or him or her. I can't remember, but I remember
Her
feeling
twins.
Yeah, I remember feeling having a similar feeling. And then I just decided to just relax. And it was almost as if a magical curtain went up. As soon as I relaxed, everything just changed like a flip of a switch. It was a wonderful sight.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But I would ask her a question. Do you still feel that you took away some of his power by trying to force things on him? That's what I would ask her.
That's a good one. I would ask her, did she feel that they did enough, or they got enough, like that she feels like she actually like completed? Because now her 3 older kids, her oldest and her 2 twins, they're all graduated, and they're in college. And I think one of them actually became an author as well and wrote the book. Is called World Mythology. and it goes along with one of her curriculums, I think the first year. But if she feels that she actually like it's all good once they graduated, was it all good, or do you feel that you forgot something or wish you'd done something differently? That's what I'd like to ask her.
I don't think there's any homeschool parent that doesn't have some little bit of regret about something they wish they'd have done differently or additionally.
I know I want to start all over again with my oldest. I keep wanting to I'm like, I can do these amazing things with my younger two. Let's start all over so I can make sure my oldest also gets those. She's like, Mom, leave it alone. Okay.
I can agree with you on that. I think that just as moms in general, we're like, we could have done so much more had we known. And that's the beauty of just the growth in homeschooling. And I'm sure people down the road said, gosh, you guys have so much modern technology at your fingertips. So there's so much more available. There's so much more. So kind of what I've resoluted for myself is that I may not be able to go back, but I get to help parents now and kind of give them and let that go on. Just my experience, what they can do. And so again, after reading this book, I passed it on to a friend. I'm like, I think that you would enjoy this. And that's my hope of my way of saying, like, this may work for your kid. This may work for your family. So yes, there's no do-overs, but you can always do something for someone else.
That's awesome. Oh, that. So we're going to go to open discussion next. Our next reads, though, I wanted to share with you. In November, we're going to talk about the Waldorf Handbook, and the alternative read is the Montessori Handbook. You can read both of those books, or you can read one or the other. In January, we're going to discuss the Whole Brain Child. And in February, we're going to discuss how to talk so your kids will listen and how to listen so your kids will talk. That should say so, not for. And also the teen version. So if you have teens, you can read the teen version. And if you have just little kids, you can read the kids version or whichever one you want. And an alternate read could be Crucial Conversations. In March, we'll discuss the book Project-Based Homeschooling. And in April is Balanced and Barefoot with an alternate read of Grow Wild. So now I'm going to just open it to complete open discussion, and we can just talk and chat about the book, whatever you want to share. You are free to unmute and talk. I think I marked every single book that she talked about in here, so I can look at later. So I can check out from the library.
Did everyone see the books that Jamie put in the chat? Circumference. That grabbed my attention.
I didn't know there was a whole series. I knew about one of them. I did not know.
I think there's at least like 4 or 5, I think. Like,
oh my goodness, that's awesome.
It's like diameter and the Dragon of Pi. There's a couple different ones. They're all like Knights of the Round Table themed, but they're great for really investigating those geometry concepts in a kind of both a story way and encouraging like a hands-on way.
That would be so cool to go along with like a middle times. Like
yeah. Oh yeah. You could totally merge it
at
with
the same time.
Like a Middle Ages study.
And like reading like King Arthur or something. I need to write that down. I'm gonna forget.
Yeah. And Marilyn Burns, she's great. She's really started like that literature for math kind of movement a while back. It's like a spaghetti and meatballs book is a big one that she has, and we have to keep adding tables and chairs and rearranging things, which is great. And she has a few other books that she's written. I know there's a couple other authors that have focused on stories that are specifically for math concepts. Once you start digging, you kind of end up with a whole bunch.
I like bedtime math.
Ooh.
I'm not a fan of the book bedtime math. I feel like, but their website bedtime math, they have a new math question every day to go along with like an article. And it's really good. The age range is better for my family than the book age range, because every article in the book, they have 3 different math questions to go along with it. But for in the book, the age range span is too small. And in the website, it's a little bit more broad where I can ask 1 question to each of my kids. So like the younger kid, I can get my youngest, and then the middle kid and the oldest. In the book, I can only get like my middle kid sometimes, and then my oldest. But I love that series.
I
So
do
you
have to
guys had
say,
mentioned.
Life of
Oh.
Fred.
oh, go ahead, Erin.
Oh yeah, sorry about that. So you guys had mentioned the lists of the books that can kind of go with each subject. Where would I find that again? I'm sorry. Now I'm finally home and settled. So-
It's in the back of her book.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Yeah. It's like her little appendix reference
Yes.
section. And she does it by grade level, and also she puts a little subject next to each of them, or most of them.
Okay, perfect. That sounds great.
Yeah, I found myself reading the book, and I was like a rabbit hole. I would like, oh, there's a book that's oh, let me go check this out, and then let me check this out, and I was like, let me get back to the book and let me finish it, and then I'll go to those. But I really appreciated that at the end she wrote all of those down, because I was just like I said, I was going down a rabbit hole, and I was like, oh, and this one and this one. And one thing I was going to say is how much I appreciate the book selections that you've been doing. I wouldn't say like I know everything about Charlotte Mason, nor do I know everything about Waldorf. And so when parents are talking, sometimes they're like, oh yes, I do a Waldorf style. And I'm like, okay. And I didn't know back then what that meant. But I think that just the variety of the books that we're going through right now is going to really help. I know it's helped me, but I would see that it would help parents to understand the different types of just learning styles or doctrines. And so I appreciate that. So I'm looking forward to also now going into the books regarding Waldorf and what that's going to look like. So now Charlotte Mason's, I'm like, oh, I get it now. I feel so enlightened, just more so. And I appreciated the author just saying, look, this isn't the true, pure Charlotte Mason. And because times have changed and because methods have also changed, I appreciated how she went about kind of tweaking it in such a way where it modernizes it and it gives grace to people who can't be that disciplined in Charlotte Mason. And so I just appreciated the grace. I'm like, okay, we're okay. We're on the right path. So yeah, thanks a lot for the book selection.
Yeah, I love it. I really liked reading this a lot because I like Charlotte Mason method, but I could never be a purist.
That's
So,
what it was.
Being able to read this and go, oh, so okay, like I can do this still is really awesome, because we are a heavy literature based homeschool. Except for like some areas like math.
I'm glad you said
Work
that,
on that.
Shannon. Like I tried like similarly to embrace Waldorf and just like go all in, because I love the aesthetics, and I love the art, and it's in literature too. Like it seemed like the perfect blend, but that it's like joining a secret club, right? Like
Yeah.
some people are true purists, and I just couldn't get that deep.
I almost think Waldorf is worse about that.
Yeah, Waldorf is bad.
Yeah, that's what we first did when my daughter was in kindergarten. We went to Waldorf, or first grade. Waldorf first, and that was intense.
And it's so pretty, right? Especially for those little ones. Like it feels so nice, but you have to just pull out the best parts and the most practical parts and go from there.
I think that's why we all get labels as eclectic homeschoolers, for all the wonderful, taking all the wonderful bits and pieces from not many, but a few different places.
So I'm excited about the Montessori method book, because I don't know that much about Montessori and I really want to know more. I used to just call it the tray method because they would just put everything on the little trays. It would learn. I don't know.
Have to check that out.
Tray method. But I'm excited to read that one. I want to know more.
So I've heard a lot of good, Shannon Trowbridge put this in the chat about Life of Fred. I've heard a lot of good feedback about that, but that was many years ago. But the people that liked it really, really liked it. I remember this one lady saying that she just couldn't, her son was having a hard time and they found those books and it changed their lives.
I've heard good things too about how the story really helps put the concepts together. I want to really the handicrafts are like the one spot, and I appreciate how she talked about like it's one of the things she struggled with, along with nature studies is another thing that I know I struggle with, getting outside, because my family is not outside people. But both of those are like struggles, and I really appreciate how she talked about that it's okay. Just try to get out once in a while, along with the handicrafts don't actually have to be old-fashioned like handicrafts. Like I knit and crochet, but my kids are like, no, that's not something I want to do. That they can be like coding, which my kids love.
Fire starting was a fun thing that we did outside. We tried, yeah, starting fires.
Ooh.
Yeah, and well, we had a big fire pit, but it became a rite of passage. Who's going to start the fire tonight? You know.
Oh, cool.
It's a good skill to have.
That's why I did scouts. I put my kids in scouts for those things. They can learn all that with supervision better than me.
I'm noticing from the perspective of reaching out to vendors and learning more about our vendors, there's a lot of vendors cropping up that offer outdoor classes.
Like the wild school stuff.
Yeah, there's
Nature
quite a
school.
few. And I think mostly they're geared towards littler kids. It would be so nice if they had some, maybe. I mean, I haven't delved in deeply to say they don't offer them to older kids, but I just kind of assumed it would be really neat to offer that for high school age kids.
Yeah. I know our area has a hike club.
That's
So,
cool.
Once a month they get together and go on a hike somewhere. It's homeschoolers. They just started it back up because it was, you know,
It's
they weren't
too
doing it
hot.
for a while.
That's a great idea. What a great way to help our high schoolers meet other high schoolers.
And a lot of it's older kids because they will do hikes that you can't really take little kids on.
Yeah.
So
Huh. I'm writing that down.
hiking clubs. My kids are not. My middle kid will go outside for like 5 minutes and then she's like, my legs hurt. I go back inside now. My arms hurt now. But she's in hula and she's in gymnastics and in ninja.
So maybe they do at the end of the day really hurt.
Well, she does them once a week, but for those she's fine. It's just when I'm like, go outside and play, she's like, oh, my arms and my legs hurt. I can't go outside. This did inspire me to limit our screen time though. Like I have decided, you know, we just had a discussion about it, limiting it to only a couple hours a day. so they can get more creative time and more time to do other things. But I think that started during, the lockdown, and progressively is just getting worse, and we need to fix that.
When I was a girl growing up, my father never really watched television. He would after dinner go and sit in the living room and read quietly. And I remember going in there and finding a book just so I could sit there with him. But it was the example that he set. And I think that's important as parents, to set that example for our kids, to let them see us not holding our phone or staring into the computer abyss.
I know I talked to my husband about that last night, and I was like, it's going to be hard because like that's my time to just zone out and scroll on my phone, but I'm going to have to turn it off.
I totally agree. Hi, sorry, I lost my voice. That's why I haven't really been talking. But yeah, I agree with you guys about going outside in nature. And that's been one of our struggles. My daughter is afraid of anything and everything. All the bugs, all the animals out in nature she's afraid of. But I just got a really cool curriculum from we were at the homeschool convention this year in California, and it was called Southern California Nature Kids, a family science curriculum. So I'm excited to dive into that. It takes you to like parks and gives you some curriculum to do there.
What's it called again? I'm writing it down.
Southern California Nature Kids.
Okay, nice. It's been hard to.
Yeah, we found them.
Most like nature-based curriculums, you can tell that they live in like maybe like the East Coast or like more up north or like Europe. Or it's like it's not as easy to get outside in this like desert climate that I recently learned is actually called a Mediterranean climate. I didn't know that.
Oh.
But it's hard to like, it's not as fun just staring at the desert.
Yeah, and this is pretty cool. It gives you places to explore, adventure tips and tools, and it's all things in Southern California.
Nice.
So I haven't even I just got it. So we're getting, me and a couple of moms, I guess, are kind of in a little co-op. So we're going to be doing that together and see where it takes us. So we're excited.
That sounds awesome.
Plus seeing other kids playing and not being afraid to touch bugs or collect, I called them sow bugs, but a lot of people call them roly-polies. And I used to collect them and give them away as gifts. Anyways, when you see, if you see other kids doing things like that, then I think you become more empowered as a little one to go, oh, well, they're doing it. It's, positive peer pressure.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm hoping so.
And I think parents too, because I get so nervous when they're like, oh, this hike and blah, 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 blah. I am not an avid hiker. So I want to go with someone who knows how, and at least I won't get lost. And so I've had to lean on other people and their expertise and what they love to do and say, hey, can we go with you on a hike? And they're like, yeah, sure. So then we all go. And then like Carrie was saying, my kids feel like, oh, okay, well, if they can jump a rock, maybe I can jump a rock. And that's how it started, because my kids were very much homely and because of me, and I didn't know how to be an avid outdoorist. But then I'm like, you know what? I want my kids to experience this. I might not know how, but I just tried to find people and friends and different people within our homeschooling community that I met at the CC events and stuff like that when my kids would go on a weekly basis, and I'd see other parents who are a little bit more adventurous than me, and I'm like, hey, can we follow you? Or hey, can we try this? And I liked more of the indoor stuff, like a skating rink and indoor things, and they're like, hey, well, we'll join you on that one. So it became, like Kathleen was saying, it does become a co-op, and you really have to lean on the gifts that other people have and their passions in order to kind of keep spurring that on. And honestly, like I said, I'm not an avid reader, but my friends were, and so my kids would lean towards that and watch that. And I mean, I was so appreciative of what they were able to learn from the examples of other adults as well.
Yeah, it definitely helps because I'm an avid reader. I read maybe 3 or 4 books a month. And so that doesn't make me want to go outside because I need to read. I want to read. So I also like, because it's almost like accountability, right? You set up a date, you set up a time, and you got to go because you made promises.
Yeah, more times it's more for us. It's hard. It's discipline for us than it is for the kids. The kids are so flexible. They're like, yeah, sure, I'll go.
So true. So true.
But also, Shannon, to your point about electronics, we've actually, I have a 16-year-old and a 19-year-old and us adults in the house, and we've actually put away our phones after dinner. And I've asked them, do all your homework, do everything you need to do before dinner, so that we just turn it off. And so, like, before they leave the dinner table, I'm like, you want to play Monopoly, or you want to play? And I'll try to like come up with a game to play. And, 75% of the time it works. And they're like, okay, we'll play one game with you. But I'm trying to keep them just stimulated and just in talking or just in hanging out. And it is consistency, and it's a lot of work, and just saying, this is what we're going to value in our home. Just turn it off for the evening and let it just be. You'll have it the rest of the day. And it's hard for me too, because at night I'm like, yeah, I can catch up on all my stuff. And it's like, no, I need to like shut it down.
Yeah. That was one of our agreements, was after dinner. Yeah. That it's off. I need to do that too. That's a good idea. The games. I have so many games, so many board games that we never play. I just need to bring out. I'm a board game collector. I like that.
I'm a card game collector, so I love card games, and my son does the same way. So he'll like, I don't know, bears versus babies, and other ones. It's just, I'm like, okay, what are we learning today?
We played cards, blackjack. It's how I taught my youngest to count. And we would use toothpicks or whatever to see who would win, but it was a counting game, and she never knew it was happening.
Yeah, during the pandemic, I learned how to play cards. I never knew any of those games. I was never even interested, and it was just that pandemic made us into like game show contestants and fierce competitors. But yeah,
we're Uno lovers here. We have every version of Uno and Duo and all of those. My kids love those. They're just so easy to learn.
Right now we're
Sounds
obsessed with
crazy.
Taco Cat goat cheese pizza.
I love that one too.
It's a super silly game where it's just the cards have nothing on them but a taco, a cat, a goat, cheese, or pizza. And you have to say those words in order, like going around a circle. And if you say the word that matches the picture, then you have to like slap the cards. So it ends up becoming kind of like, who gets stuck with all the cards at the end. But it's super silly and easy, but sometimes you just need those that don't have the math.
Yeah. We love that game. We currently have to play it slowly because my 2 little ones are still not up to speed. But I can't wait till they get older for that one. That one's fun to play with my oldest. Except it hurts your hand after a while because you're like all slapping at the same time.
the one I have a hard time playing with is Dutch Blitz. It is like very, very fast and very hard. I'm good with more methodical like games and just thinking about it before you put your cards down. And this one's like speed. And I'm like, I can't. I try, but I can't.
My husband came home the other day and he was like, we have to get this game. They were playing it at my work. I think it's new. And he was like, it's phase 5. And I'm like, ah. That's like the one card game I don't like playing.
Wait, phase 10?
Phase 10, yeah, sorry.
Oh, I love that.
He's like, it's phase 10. We should get that game. I think it's new. I'm like, that's not new. He's like, I can't get into it.
Phase 10 is a card game?
Yeah.
It's because it's long, but if what we've done is we've done like, okay, we'll only do the odd numbers or only do the even or do the first 5 and then whoever wins at the end of the 5. So you have to go to all 10 phases. So it can be long, but we used to do it at work during our lunch break too. And there was like 12 of us playing. So yeah. It gets crazy.
Monopoly is a long game.
Oh, we don't even touch that game in our
Ugh.
not.
There's a card game called Monopoly Go.
Mm.
And it's very fast. It's like 15 minutes long.
Oh.
And so yeah. And yeah. My son, I've learned, is very he knows how to play the cards. And I'm like, dude, like keep thinking about this in life. Like you're thinking about it, you're watching all the players, and you're holding on to some cards that may be useful later. And so you show some cards, but you don't show all those. So I'm helping him think like, hey, bud, like as you're growing up, think about how that's going to play out in your life and in your work environment and what you want to do. Like be smart, like even with finances, how are you going to spend and when are you going to save? And so I've tried to like continue teaching and incorporate that in life as well. But yep.
All right. Before I stop recording, I wanted to say thank you everybody for coming. And I hope to see everybody here next month for our next books, which is the Waldorf Handbook and the Montessori Handbook. And I'm gonna stop recording.